Hello everyone, I welcome you all to today's continuation video, right. So, wherein we will be discussing few more concepts from the topic equation, ratio, proportion, variation. So, we shall be looking at one more new model of question under simple equations, right, and following that we will be looking at couple of points to remember while solving ratio based questions, right. There are some important techniques that we have that I will be letting you know in this video. So, before I start, for learning more about these areas, right, note that we have our courses, right, where we get to more detailed version of whatever we are doing in this video. We will get into more details there, right. So, do check out the various courses that we have, right, online and also at your nearest center, right, and please get enrolled, right. Let's get started with the video here. So, ERPV. So, let's start with the problem itself. So, this is a question. You can just read it once, right, read it and try to solve it yourself once. See, you pause the video for around 2-3 minutes, try it out and get to the answer for this, right. And here in the video, I will continue with the discussion however. Right. Let's get started. It says, Arvind is a fruit seller. He distributes fruits in the following manner. He gives first customer one more than half the number of fruits with him. So, basically selling to the first customer. How is he selling? He is giving one more fruit than half the number of fruits with him. For example, if Arvind had 10 fruits, to the first customer he will give one more than half. Now, what is half of 10? 5. One more than that? 6. So, he is selling 6 fruits to the first customer. To the second customer, he gives 2 more than half the number of fruits remaining with him. So, for second customer, there is a change in the manner in which he is selling the fruits, right. He is giving 2 more than half the number of fruits remaining with him. To the third customer, he sells 1 more than half the number of fruits remaining with him. He is now left with 3 fruits. After the 3 customers are done with, he is now left with 3 fruits. Find the number of fruits he initially had. So, one of the ways of solving this question could be, we could do it like this. So, let us assume that he started with n fruits, okay. So, to the first customer he is selling 1 more than half the number of fruits that he has. That means the number of fruits he will be left with after he sold to the first customer will be number of fruits he started with minus the number of fruits he sold to the first customer. This will give us what? This will be n minus n by 2 is n by 2 minus 1. So, this is the number of fruits left with Arvind after he sells to the first customer. Now, he sells to the second customer. Now, as per the question, it was 2 more than half the number of fruits with him, right. It was 2 more than half the number of fruits with him. So, what does it mean? Number of fruits remaining with him is this, right. So, he would have sold half of this and 2 more than this. This is how he is selling it. So, when you simplify, half of n by 2 is n by 4 minus 1 by 2 plus 2. So, when you simplify this, it is going to be n by 4 plus 3 by 2, right. So, when you simplify by taking LCM, it is n plus 6 by 4. This is by 4. So, this is the number of fruits he sold to the second customer. Now, how many will he be left with? He will be left with number of fruits he was left with n by 2 minus 1 minus the number of fruits he sold. Okay. When you take the LCM and all, it will give us what? N by 2 minus n by 4 is n by 4. Okay. Minus 1 minus 6 by 4 minus 3 by 2. Minus 1 minus 3 by 2 is minus 5 by 2. Okay. When you take the LCM, it is n minus 10 by 4. So, thus the number of fruits he is left with after selling to the third customer. Now comes the after selling to the second customer. Now comes the third customer. So, how much is he selling to the third customer? It was 1 more than half the number of fruits remaining with him. So, half the number of fruits remaining with him, 1 more than this. So, when you simplify this, it is n minus 10 by 8 plus 1. So, it is n minus 2 by 8. when you take the LCM. And how much will he be left with after this? So n minus 10 by 4 minus n minus 2 by 8. So when you take the LCM and all, 2n minus 20. So 2n minus n is n minus 20 plus 2. So minus 18 by 8. And this is given to be as 3. Finally, he is left with 3 fruits. So when you solve this, you will get the value of n as 42. So the answer is 42, but the amount of time you would need to do all of this is a lot, right? As you have seen right now as I was doing it. So here the problem arrived because the problem came because we were trying to solve it in top-down approach. We started with the first customer, then second, then third. Now in such problems, this approach is not usually the right approach. I just clean this. If you want, you can note it down, but I don't recommend this because this is a very, very long approach. In such problems, when the information is given about the end point, he is now left with 3 fruits. In such problems, it's always better you start from the end. So in this case, I'll start from the third customer, not the first customer. See, just imagine in the previous problem, here, imagine if at all there was a fourth customer also, then there would be a similar amount of working needed for the fourth customer also, which is very, very complicated if you'll ask me, right? So how can we avoid this is, as I said, we'll go in something called as a reverse approach. So let's try to look at what the reverse approach is. We start off with the third customer first. So third customer first. So for the third customer, we'll sell certain number of fruits. Then we are left with certain number of fruits, which is given to be as 3 for the third customer. Now how many fruits are we selling to the third customer? It is 1 more than half the number of fruits left with Arvind. Half the number of fruits left with Arvind. So how many fruits are left with Arvind after selling to the second customer? We don't know. Let it be X. So if this is the X, this is going to be half of that plus 1. Now please notice, out of X, if you're selling half of them, you will be left with the other half. Out of 10, I'm selling half, that means I'm left with the other half, 5. I'm selling 1 more, that means I'll be left with 1 less. So this is given to be as 3. So when you solve this, you'll get the value of X as 8. Okay? So the value of X is 8. But what is 8? Number of fruits left after selling to second customer. How much did we sell to second customer? It is nothing but 2 more than half the number of fruits left with him after selling to the first customer. How much did he sell to the first customer? Let's say Y. So it will be Y by 2 plus 2. Out of Y, if you are selling Y by 2, we'll be left with the other Y by 2. If you are selling plus 2, we'll be left with minus 2. So when you solve this, Y by 2 minus 2 equal to 8, you'll get the value of Y as 20. So that means I'll be left with 20 fruits after selling to the first customer. How much are we now selling to the first customer? That will be nothing but number of fruits n he started with, half of that plus 1. So out of n, if you're selling away half, you'll be left with the other half. If you're giving 1 more, you'll be left with 1 less. This should be equal to 20, which will eventually give us the value of n as 42. So the major advantage that one gets using this reverse approach is the candidate can successfully avoid really complicated equations. If you remember in the previous method that we did, we came across equations involving n by 8 also. So if there was a fourth customer, there would be equations involving n by 16 also, which would not be so easy to deal with. Whereas here, even if you had 2 more customers, you will still be at best be getting an equation like this: x by 2 minus 1 or plus 1, x by 2 minus 2 or plus 2 equal to something. It's a very simple equation, easy to solve equation as compared to the other approach. This is called as a reverse approach, which is useful whenever the information about the end point is given to us. I hope we are clear with this. Next concept that I would like to take up is from ratios, and that concept is basically merging of ratios, right? So how do we merge 2 ratios? So one of the easiest ways to merge ratios is if you are given with A is to B as 2:5, B is to C as 10:13. So what do we do here is, What will be A is to B is to C is the question. What do we do here is, we look at the common term. The common term is B. We try to make it equal. Here it is 5, here it is 10. So when I try to make it equal, how do I do that? I need to make this 5 as 10. How do we do? Multiply throughout by 2. So we can write this ratio as 4 is to 10. So when we now merge them, 10 and 10 are equal. This will give us 4 is to 10 is to 13. So A is to B is to C can be written like this. So this is a very simple method that we have for merging of ratios. But this method will usually be really slow when you have multiple ratios to merge. For example, imagine you have A is to B given, B is to C given, C is to D given, D is to E given, E is to F given. And now you have to merge all them, all those ratios, right? All of them. Now in such a case, you will have to do, for example, observe this, A is to B given. You have to make B same first, merge these two, done. Then you have to make C same in that merged ratio and this ratio, merge these two, done. Then you have to make D same, merge, E same, merge. So this process will have to repeat so many times here. Instead, we can go for a even quicker process like you have A is to B, B is to C, C is to D and D is to E is to F, already merged ratio is given. Find the A is to B is to C is to D is to F ratio. So what do we do in this case is, we will write down the required variables. Okay. Now we will just write down the values given to us in these ratios. So what are the values? A is to B is 3 is to 4. B is to C is 5 is to 2. C is to D is 3 is to 7. Then D, E, F is 2 is to 3 is to 5. Okay, we just write it. And then we follow the following process. The process is, in each row, if you'll see, there are certain number of empty cells. Now the process of filling up the empty cells will be, we fill up these empty cells with its adjacent filled cell. So whichever is the adjacent filled cell, we'll just write that as it is, copy paste. So for example, in the first row, these 4 are adjacent to 4. I'll just write 4 here, copy it. Throughout 4. If you look at this cell is adjacent to 5, I'll write 5. Whereas these 3 are adjacent to 2, I'll write 2. These 2 are adjacent to 3. So I'll write 3 here, whereas these 2 are adjacent to 7, I'll write 7 here. These 3, if you will see, are adjacent to only 2, I'll write 2 here. So this way I fill up the remaining cells that we have. Next, what do I do is, for finding that merged ratio, we simply multiply each column. So A will be what? 3 into 5, 15, 15 into 3, 45, 45 into 2, 90. B will be 4 into 5, 20, into 3, 60, into 2, 120. 4 into 2, 8, into 3, 24, into 2, 48. 4 into 2, 8, into 7, 56, into 2, 112. 56 into 3, 168. 56 into 5 is 280. And then of course we'll check for one thing, is there a common factor? If there is a common factor, we'll try to remove it. For example, right now if you'll see, I think we'll have a common factor of 2 throughout, we can simply remove that. So 45 is to 60, 24, 56, 84, 140. So I think we don't have any more common factors. If there are any, we'll just try to remove it. So this is how we can merge the ratio directly in one single table. All right. Instead of trying to merge them in steps, we can do it like this and get to our answer more conveniently. Right. I hope we are clear with this process. Now just one more thing. Now if you look at this question, in ratios we come across such conditions quite often. wherein he would say, if you read this question, it says certain number of gold coins are distributed among 4 pirates, P1, P2, P3, P4, in such a way that twice the number of coins with P1 is same as 5 times the number of coins with P2, which in turn is same as thrice the number of coins with P3, which again is same as 7 times the number of coins with P4. So generally what we have is, we have conditions like A into the variable X is same as B into variable Y, C into the variable Z. In such a case, the ratio of X is to Y is to Z can be easily calculated as, take the reciprocal of the first term, coefficient, reciprocal of second term, Y coefficient, reciprocal of coefficient of Z. So it's 1 by C. So this ratio is nothing but X is to Y is to Z. And similarly, if you have X by A same as Y by B same as Z by C given to you, in such a case the ratio can be directly calculated as A is to B is to C. So these are 2 rules that we can maybe make a note of, right? Now let's quickly try out these rules on the problem given. Certain number of gold coins are distributed among 4 pirates, P1 to P4, in such a way that twice the number of coins with P1 is same as 5 times the number of coins with P2, which in turn is same as thrice with P3, which again is same as 7 times with P4. So we have a equation of this form. Then directly can we say P1, P2, P3, P4, the ratio will be nothing but reciprocal of respective coefficients. So what is coefficient of P1? We'll take reciprocal of it. 1 by 5 likewise, 1 by 3 likewise, 1 by 7 likewise. Now when you take the LCM here, 10, 30, 210 is the LCM. Multiply throughout by 210, you'll get 210 by 2, 105, 210 by 5, 42, 210 by 3, 70, 210 by 7, 30. Now this I believe is in the simplest possible ratio. So this is the ratio of number of coins between the 4 pirates. Now what is the question? What is the minimum number of coins getting distributed? So if number of coins is 105, 42, 70, 30 ratio, can we not take the number of coins as this K everywhere? So thus the total number of coins will be nothing but 105 and 42, 147, 217, 247K. But since we want it to be minimum possible, we will try to keep K also minimum possible, which is 1. So thus the answer is going to be 247 for this question. So with this we have come to the end of the video, right? I hope you have followed the concepts that we have covered in this particular video, right? They are all useful from point of your competitive exam, right? Please do learn them, practice them wherever possible. On that note, let me end the session here. Thank you and all the very best.